Last unit we have talked about how research is done and types of research, and in social science what are the various methodologies, and today's talk will be talking about review of literature in social sciences. I will be covering this in two parts. This one is part 1, where we will be talking about review of literature and how it is important. All of you know, any scientific revolution, knowledge revolution, it cannot happen in vacuum. Rather, it builds on with the past knowledge, and these are very important for any knowledge generation, any research, and any kind of, whether it is science, physical science, or social science. And you will know that it is very important to know about what is review of literature. Especially when we do any research, we have to see what we know already. Okay, what has been researched already and what has not been researched. These are very important to think about new research. Otherwise, unless you know the research gaps, if you don't know what are the research undertaken already, we cannot think of new research, and sometimes we may do repetitive research which doesn't add to any knowledge. So this is very important in the context of review of literature. So especially Jim Wolfe mentioned that what do researchers know, what do they not know, what has been researched and what has not been researched, is the research reliable and trustworthy, where are the gaps in the knowledge. When you compile all that together, you have yourself a literature review. So all put together is called literature review. I'll go in more details, especially today's unit will be talking about what is meant by literature review, functions of literature review, steps of literature review. These are 3 important components when you do literature review. For any social sciences student, whether they are from sociology, from economics, from history, from political science, any subject. So what is review of literature? Let's think what experts say. A researcher cannot perform significant research without first understanding the literature in the field. This is mentioned by Butte and Belle. Any researcher who is undertaking systematic research cannot do any research unless they know what are the existing knowledge in that field. A literature review surveys scholarly articles, books, and other sources. You all know, when you do any literature survey, you read lots of articles, books, maybe manuscript from archival sources, documents. All these are very important because these are the storehouse of knowledge which gives you some idea about what are the existing knowledge. And you read even dissertation, conference proceedings relevant to particular issue, area of research or theory, providing a description, summary, critical evaluation of each work. The purpose is to offer an overview of significant literature published on a topic, especially the topic you are doing research. So what is literature review in a nutshell? The literature review is an integral part of the entire research process and makes a valuable contribution to almost every operational step. So when you talk about literature, review of literature, you undergo lots of critical examination of the previous knowledge. What are the goals of literature review? It has few goals, especially to develop a theory or evaluate an existing theory. You know the structure of scientific revolution by Thomas Kuhn. He was mentioning that scientific revolution happened through falsification. You have to falsify the old theory to build a new theory, to find a gap, to build a new theory. These are the process of any knowledge creation, generation, any theory building. So any social research also undergoes same process. Second goal is to summarize the historical or existing state of research topic. Especially when you do research, literature review, you also summarize the historical and existing state of research topic. That's how you can know in a very broad way what are the things available. Third is identify a problem in a field of research. Review of literature also will help you to sharpen your knowledge and identify in a very specific field of research. Because when you initially do research, you come across with many things and you are completely lost to what kind of research you should do. And many things, initially whatever you think, nobody has done research in this area. I am the first person I am doing research, or this is a very unique field. When you read so many books, research articles and dissertation, you will see there are so many research in that area. So in the process, you also identify new area, unique area to do research. So review of literature helps you in this area. When do you need to write a literature review? Especially we do review of literature for three specific purposes, other than if you have genuinely you are interested to do something independently. Otherwise, three things which are generally people do. Review of literature is done for thesis. When students undertake any kind of thesis, MPhil or PhD, they do lots of review of literature. In fact, first 1 year, 6 months, student in MPhil and PhD, they do completely review of literature so that they can be familiar with the research area, identify new topics, even to examine their previous thesis. All this happen when you write dissertation and thesis. So then second is you do also review of literature for writing a research paper. This research paper can be from your thesis, can be without your thesis work, it can be genuinely for your own interest, but for that also you need to do review of literature. You read so many books, thesis, research paper, do archival work and review them, examine them, and you also work on them, quote them, refer them to build your knowledge. And third one is grant proposal. When you write for a project funding and all this, you also review literature. So these are very important three areas. Grant, even to do any research grant, any project, you need to know what are the existing things and find the gap. So these are the three important areas, and very much it is very much useful to know why review of literature is so important, even in a profession, like if you are a professor undertaking research, or a student, or a NGO person who are working to get some proposal, means funding. All these are very important. You should know the importance of review of literature. There are few types of literature review. One is narrative review. Second is book review or historiographical review. Third is systematic review. Fourth is meta-analysis. Fifth is meta-synthesis. We'll go one by one. Narrative review, it describes the current state of the research and offer a critical analysis of the literature reviewed. Mostly, you should also know whenever you do narrative review, most social sciences they do this, and you always critically examine the previously published work or research. This also studies are grouped by research, theoretical categories and themes, trends, strengths, weakness and gaps are identified. when you do this kind of review, you also make a group, categories, group, so that you know these are the area in which are, and you also see the trend and patterns and weakness and find the gaps where you will be standing on their shoulder and summarize their findings. When you do literature review, you also summarize the major findings of them so that you know these are the existing knowledge and you build on that. Then identify the gaps and explain how authors' research will address the gap. Especially gap findings are very important because to minimize the duplication, to not repeat the same thing, you also try to identify the gap in the review of literature and position your research uniquely. Then second type of review is book review or essays. You all in the initial stage of your research, many students get to know this book review or historiographical review. In this review type, review focus on a small set of research books on a particular topic or locate these books within the current scholarship, critical methodologies and approaches. Especially when you do any book review, you select the books or article in your specific area and review them critically, find the gap and contextualize them. So like that, you also build on your kind of scholarship, new scholarship, your research in a existing contextualizing existing knowledge. And these are very important because if I am doing on migration, I should know what are the works in the field. I should know the current scholarships. I should know what are the latest publication, what are the previous publication in that particular area, so that my research will be contextualized. Then another is systematic review. Here the author of a systematic review use a specific procedure to search the research literature, select the studies to include in their review and critically evaluate the studies they find. It is very important to do a systematic review. Systematic review means like even earlier also these are also systematic, but you actually study them critically, include them wherever they are applicable, follow a procedure, search particular terminology and categorize them and contextualize them. All these are involved in systematic review. Then there is a meta-analysis. This is a quantitative way to group, categorize research, analyze the information and make sense of them. The basic goal in meta-analysis is to explain why different outcomes have occurred in different studies. Sometimes in large data you cannot do qualitative research. You do quantitative research where you get data and see the variations. Then meta-synthesis. This is a qualitative meta-synthesis. Is a type of qualitative study that uses as data the findings from other qualitative study linked to the same related topics. These are very much important. Even those are coming, doing psychological studies in sociology, in anthropology. They go for lots of qualitative study because there many places you don't have access to do quantitative study. It will actually hamper your research. So this is very important area. Let's talk about components of literature review. What are the components? Especially broadly there are 4 components. One is an overview of the subject. When you do literature review, you talk about the overall subject they are dealing with, issues or theory under consideration, along with the objectives of a literature review. Then you also talk about division of work under review into categories. Those in support of a particular position, those against, and those offering alternative thesis. You critically examine them Those are supporting particular thesis you are talking about, particular argument, particular research finding, huh? particular idea. You support, group them together. Those are providing alternative thesis. For example, you are studying poverty. Why poverty is rising? You talk about who are different proponents. Some people talk about only economic growth will, bring in prosperity. Some will talk, individual capacity building also bring prosperity. You have to see no theory is foolproof. No findings, no research actually give total solution. So we have to see in a totality, and sometimes that's where interdisciplinary research are very helpful. You use many theories cutting across discipline and bring them and find who are talking what and how they are contradicting. You find alternative views, and that way you strengthen your kind of research inquiry. Then third is explanation of how each work is similar to and how it varies from others. You can find a kind of pattern also. Then conclusion and gaps in research. You also summarize the research findings after reviewing and find the gaps. These are very important when you think of your new research. When you talk about objective of literature review, these are few objectives. Number one is what is the current state of knowledge and who are the key writers, researchers and experts in the field. We all know those who are working on any field. We also know who are the major thinkers who influence the scholarship in that area. For example, when we talk about poverty, we talk about Amartya Sen. We talk about many John Rees. We talk about many economists, sociologists who work on poverty. When we talk about any issue, migration, we talk about Robin Cohen, Stephen Warthovic. Because these scholars have given path-breaking theories and understanding in the field. So second is what different definitions, concepts, issues are relevant to this topic. You also, because concept and theories, definitions are very, very important, because these are all, we use to understand a broad, complex phenomena. So you use concept and theory to actually simplify complex phenomena. And these are very important to understand any kind of human interaction and activities. Okay. So for example, when you talk about particularly people migrating from one country to another, and having relation with their own mother country, you use the term diaspora. So simplifying entire complex phenomenon. Similarly, we use phenomena, concepts like globalization, so many concepts to understand the complex phenomena, and they are also evolving over time. Okay. So the next one is how has thinking, knowledge about this topic changed over the years? As I mentioned just now, nothing is, permanent. The people, their thinking pattern, their lifestyles, they are changing. So also the theory, concept, understanding about the world, the contemporary world is changing. No particular, variable is permanent. Sometimes we, in sociology, think that particular kind of religious, thinking is very helpful for economic growth. For example, Max Weber talked about Protestant ethics actually helped the Protestant to be prosperous economically, because their religious philosophy valued own writing, rational thinking and all. But today, if you see, that theory is not so relevant, because you find many other communities are also prospering over time, because not because their ideology and their way of thinking, but kind of new dynamism has changed in globalized world. And now you can find even Chinese are prospering even better than Protestant ethics. Protestants, Indians are also prospering economically. So new communities are prospering with new dynamics are coming, and you have to see what are the new dynamics which makes people enterprising, prosperous, and all this. So these are very important in the review of literature. When you study others' research, you will find so many insights, so many theories, so many nuances to understand the phenomenon. Fourth is, what are the different and sometimes conflicting theories associated with this topic, as I already mentioned. Fifth is, what are the key points of disagreement in the existing literature. Sixth is, what are the unanswered questions, problems associated with the topic. There are, research gaps. Even in your research, anybody doing new research, they will also sometimes throw new questions where people which they cannot answer with the existing research. So the next one is, what does the literature say about the attempt to tackle them? Suppose you talk about poverty. What are the literature? What are the literature available to provide solution to the poverty? You should know. Then you can find something new. So when you talk about, then last one is the documentation of a comprehensive review of a published and unpublished work in the area of specific interest to the researcher. See, all this you have to do systematically documentation so that you can actually examine them systematically and find the gap. So next is functions of literature review. What are the functions? While you do literature review, first function is brings clarity and focus to your research problem. Second is to improve your methodology. Third is broaden your knowledge base in the research area. Then contextualize your findings. So number one is clarity and focus. When you talk about function of various literature review, you need to have a research problem. Once you have a research problem, you should know how to study literature and bring more clarity to the problem. But unless you don't have any research problem, merely reading literature, it may not help you to sharpen your focus. So, and clarity also. So literature review can play an extremely important role in shaping your research problem. It also helps you to define the relationship between your research problem and the body of knowledge in the area. Second is improve your methodology. It will sharpen actually sometimes your methodological knowledge on how to collect data is very important. And through reading literature, what are the things you are investigating, what are the appropriate methodology, what kind of shortcomings in the existing methodology to collect data, to survey, to get more clarity in the area you are studying, procedures, methods, what works well, what are the shortcomings, you will all know. Then broaden your knowledge. Obviously, when you do literature review, you know the sea of knowledge, okay, vast knowledge, and you contextualize your knowledge. You also see your knowledge is where to go from next after studying so many books, research findings and all this. You also know where to go, from where to start your research and do something new. Contextualizing your findings. When you do study literature survey, you also contextualize your study. If I am doing something on, for example, on migration, I should know many literature on migration. Within migration, there are so many areas, sub areas. Once I study literature, it is like a tunnel. You discover new things. When you go and you are in a vast knowledge base, you keep reading and find new things, and then your mind get sharpen, your research knowledge about theories, all this gets sharpened, you get better insight. Then These are the way you find that research, review of literature is very important, and there are many ways to conduct that. I'll talk in my next talk. Thank you.